Meeting to order. It's 9:03 a.m. We're going to start with roll call.
Lana Cosley Smith. Sue St. Ange. Larry Barbeau.
Here.
Kimberly Gravel. Here. Bridget Sorensen. Yep, Bridget Sorensen. Yeah, she's on, but she's Tyler LaPlante. Kimberly Lee.
Here. And
Ash-
I'm here too.
Lana.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Ashley Gravel.
Here.
Michael McCurchie.
Here.
Rob McGrory. Aaron Paymont.
Here.
Cole Goodrow.
Here.
Austin Lowe's. You have a quorum.
I'm going to motion to recess this until 9 a.m. August 18th, 2026 for the JKL Fiduciary Committee meeting.
Motion.
All right, so we are,
Vote, please.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes. If you guys want to bring that information back with you on Tuesday, please. We will.
Wait a minute. We don't.
I mean, her report's in your. Until 10 a.m.
We are recessing until 10 a.m. Thank you. Get the workshop started. We are starting with Keewaydin Casino CFO introductions, and I will let Bill take this.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm pleased to introduce, most of you were in on the interviews that we had with Mr. O'Keefe. We did one Zoom, and then we asked him to come in person, and he did come in person, and everybody had a favorable reaction. So we sent out a request with the HR department to negotiate with Mr. O'Keefe, and he accepted our proposals and started yesterday. So I'm very happy to introduce to everybody again, Mr. Sean O'Keefe.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everybody, and nice to meet the new board members. And thank you for having me back for the other board members that I met last time. I'll just give a brief introduction. I know that some of you have heard this before, so I apologize for any repeat or lots of repeat maybe. But for the new board members, I thought it may be helpful. So started my career in public accounting, spent about 10 years in public accounting with Grant Thornton in the California area, auditing both nonprofits and commercial entities. I joined a commercial entity, DHL Worldwide Express, as their technology CFO for a number of years. Worked in healthcare for a number of years, worked in financial services for a number of years as CFOs, and then worked for Mille Lacs Corporate Joint Ventures in Minnesota, central Minnesota, for about 6 to 7 years. They had 2 rural casinos of about 1,800 slot machines. I was also responsible for basically their economic development entities. So like they had a cannabis, they had an 8A organization, leasing organization, some other organizations. So I was the CFO for that group and was basically hoping to stay in the Native American arena and casinos. And so very happy to be here. And I met a lot of people in a very short time. So far, everybody's been very welcoming. And I would also like to thank, I know Diane isn't here, but I think she did a great job in kind of corresponding with me during the I guess, the negotiation process, selection process, et cetera, as well as Bill. So I don't think I have anything to add other than that, unless there's questions that any of the board members maybe have of me. Thank you.
I'm just going to go around the table just to reintroduce and then introduce the ones that are new. And just a reminder, we are in open session. Bridget, I'll have you go first.
Good morning, Bridget Sorensen. Nice to have you here.
I'm Aaron Payment, Unit 1. We're in Unit 1.
Cole Goodrow, Unit 4. Welcome. It's, I'm new like yourself and have a lot to learn, so it's good that you're giving us an opportunity for your services. Sounds like you have a really good background late to the game here. I know, like you said, a lot of these people went through that process of vetting, the candidates out, but it sounds like they made a really good choice. So it's nice having you here. Thank you.
Hi, welcome. Kimberly Lee, Unit 2.
Hi, Larry Barbie, Unit 4. Welcome aboard.
Ashley Gravel, Unit 1.
And I'm Lana Stewart. I'm the board administrator.
Welcome. I'm Lana Cosley Smith, Unit 2.
Michael McCritchie, Unit 1. Welcome aboard.
Kim Gravel, Unit 1. Good to see you again.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Mr. O'Keefe has a lot of experience in gaming and financing. So one of his, just to give you kind of an idea, one of his main projects will be working with the expansion financing and the banks that are putting forth proposals. So we'll keep you posted, and I'm tickled that he's here. No, I'm going to help him.
Bridget?
I'd like to request that, since we have 3 new board members, that you guys get to hear the projects more in depth of what the casino is planning on doing. And it doesn't have to happen today, obviously, but I think that they should know what is going on and us getting an update as well.
Okay, we can arrange that with Lana for some time as soon as possible. And we'll have Al and Dana come down and give a presentation similar to what we gave earlier.
You have your executive reports, the Kuwaiti Gaming Authority workshop on the 25th. Would you be ready to do it by then?
I think we would be ready to do it by then, but we should also hopefully be ready to bring forth a proposal for the financing. That's our goal, anyway.
Aaron?
So this casino CFO reports to the Gaming Authority, is that correct?
Yes.
So what I would recommend, I recommend this every time we hire an executive. We're in the process of doing a constitution amendment and all of that. But what I would recommend, what I would do if I were in your position, is I would come to the table with ideas about how you would like to operate, how you would like to report, regular reporting, and draft up a proposal for regular interaction with the council. And benchmarks, like your projected benchmarks, so it's realistic because you'll be projecting them, and then come to the council to get them to either approve it or just, to see it. Because we used to do a really, really good job with the assessments and evaluation because it used to be based on merit. But we abandoned that a while ago, so we still kind of do assessments, but it's not doesn't tie it into merit. But for me, if I were you, I would want to know the score. I would not want to know where I'm at in respect to what my supervisors, and right now you have 13 supervisors. So that's what I would recommend that you do, because then you can see that what you proposed with the scope that you believe that was going to be in place is what is agreed to, and so that's what I would recommend.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for the suggestion.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Pardon me?
Find a house or lodging or?
I'm in the hotel apartment for now.
Oh, it's crazy right now because we have the Locks project, which is about 200 or 300 people in the community. So it's tough right now, but it should lighten up eventually, but probably not for a couple of years. So
We'll work through it. So the team has been very helpful. So we'll work through it, but appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I want to thank Al and Kent for helping out with the onboarding so far with Mr. O'Keefe. And Dana was involved yesterday in some of our discussions. So, and we introduced him to everybody up in the finance area, and we took him around to purchasing and those areas. So he's met a lot of people, as he said earlier. So I think it's going well so far. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start budgets with Jennifer, FY 2027 Schedule B budget packet.
To start off, I did hand out 2 packets. One is a packet of Schedule C. One is a list of Schedule C budgets that have not been received yet. They were due last Thursday with responses from staff. And then next, we'll go through our packet. The first thing is we presented budgets to the board last Tuesday for Schedule B. And that is the first resolution. It's for a total of $12,310,732. $541,121 is coming from tribal support. and it is a total of 41 budgets. That will be on for the next Tuesday's board meeting. If that doesn't pass, I then have a resolution for a continuing funding resolution, just for anything that start, because we have 4 cost centers that start September 1st, but I figured if we're not gonna do it, I'd rather just have the continuing funding resolution set and approved, even for those that start October 1st. Next is the continuing funding resolution for the health division, and I do apologize on this one is, James did sign off on it, he's well aware as well, is with this one is, they asked for an extension, then took beyond the extension, so now I'm trying to squeeze their budgets in where we have time because we plan the whole year out in advance, so I'm trying to get this ahead, and again, I've had them for a few weeks now. It's putting them, I wanna double check them, then I also have to check all their personnel because we don't have a system in place, so it's kind of tedious to check every budget with personnel. But that will be coming. I will be scheduling that soon as well. First up,
1 second. Cole?
Why do we needed the extension for that, you know?
because we won't have them approved before their start date, so they continue to operate without a budget until we have board approval on them.
How long did they have to come up with it? Like, did they have ample time, or what was the issue?
They have 4 weeks to complete their budgets.
Okay.
They had, well, the health division had more than 4 weeks. They asked for a 2-week extension, and then beyond that took 4 additional weeks. So
Is this putting us at like any risk or anything right now, or is like?
the only thing right now that has me concerned, and why I want to try to, on our end, to push them through, is with the change in accounting software, is making sure, I'm hoping we have all budgets approved prior to the switching, so they have to put them into the new software instead of us.
And that's
So-
gonna be a mess, anytime you change. any
It's
kinda
gonna be a
accounting
lot.
software, It's gonna be tough, right?
Yep.
So, all right.
And, oh, sorry.
Aaron?
So I'll just add, we do, like 90% of what we do is incremental budgeting from the year before. So really, you have more than the time period. You have a year ahead of time to be drafting up what your budget's gonna look like in your budget request. And that's why we do a continuing resolution. But the extension was an extension to the health division beyond the regular timeline for submitting their budgets. And the other thing I was gonna say is, we've gotten pretty good at accommodating not having a budget to pass. And in the past, it's mostly been at this table, why we don't have a budget, because we don't, whatever. But the one part that's of concern ongoing is that if we have grants and contracts that are outside of the routine incremental budgeting that we do, those have different timelines, and so a continuing resolution does not address those. And so then we have to piecemeal all that and bring those back individually. So, there's something to be said for a learning curve. You have a CFO, but we're now in the second year or going into the third year. And we have a new comptroller. Is this title comptroller over there? So there's a learning curve there, but I would also say, though, that, I don't want to, we do have a lot longer than just 4 weeks. When budgets remind you that you need to be drafting up a budget, that's a reminder. You have a whole year ahead of time to be drafting up your budgets and potentially making changes and prepping for submission of your budget. That's just submitting the budget. So there's lots of time to prepare it, so.
That's not. No, not at all, that's not your fault.
No, I have to kind of semi-apologize too, when it comes to the budgets in the department, I don't know how to sugarcoat words, I'm a psychopath. I will stalk people to the end because it holds up the process. And I feel guilty right now, even with the health division, because they asked for a 2-week extension because of the next gen, and I 100% completely agree with that. Because that system, it's a whole new thing, just like the accounting software. It's the transition, but the staff had them in, and I had to still, like I said, it took 4 additional weeks after that. And I feel bad because I don't want to hold up their process, because I want the help, I mean, and I'm hoping with this new accounting software that budget mods and the budget process are also easier. It's depending on what package we go with, it can be all done right through our software instead of, like they can review it, approve, we can approve it that way and stuff like that. Fingers crossed, we'll see how it works. Again, I know it's gonna be a lot, but Health Division's one of our largest division, and I would say probably 3/4 of the budget mods that we get are from them, and it's the planning. And I'm hoping with this new software that, we had a demo of it, I think 2 weeks ago, and I'm hoping that'll be helpful for staff and that we can train them to utilize it to their benefit, because right now there's a lot of poor planning across a lot of the budgets and with Schedule B, and that's why, I might be a narc for giving the list of people that haven't submitted. Call me it, I'm okay with it. I've been called worse. But right there is, those Schedule C budgets, we're tribal support-wise. We don't have the funds we used to. The same thing with third-party revenue, the settlement fund, stuff like that. And those two over there are gonna be the ones that have to plan it. And so I'm trying to get them all in, and right now, we're trying to just even build it without even reviewing them, saying, here's where we're at, tribal support. So then they can get it and say, this is what we have to do to realign. So it's a lot of changes, so.
Sorry, Jen, one more time. Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel bad. I think you're doing a great job. It's our job to make sure that these get in time and hold people accountable. I see this sheet right here. Is there any way, like, you could send us, like, another column on here with these costs of these,
What they were last year,
Yeah.
I can do that.
or what that is on the side, so there's some value to that? But I think we need to do a better job of supporting you to make sure that these get in on time and hold people accountable. I don't want you to feel bad. I think you're doing a great job.
I'm struggling with the Health Division. This one's not so much, but the Health Division,
Yeah.
I'm struggling, because, they have an October 1st start date, and I would love to have them approved by then. I'd love to have every budget approved before their start date. But because of the lateness of receiving them, it's been, now
Yeah,
it's
and
just trying to
I think it's
push it
great we're
in.
coming up with a new system, but the system is only as good as the information that we put into it. You know what I mean? So,
100%.
well, we'll help you with that.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I'm very fortunate that Jess and Holly are very on board, and they want to see things better. And like, we met yesterday for financial reviews, and I can't even reiterate enough that the financial reviews have changed from when we first started. We used to pull everybody in, and they would sit outside the door waiting to come in. Well, now it's Jess and Holly, we met yesterday, and Lana said, you guys are more than welcome to attend, and I send you the financials. But what we did is we then go through everything. We note, they're sending emails off to staff. Jess has someone in there taking notes, and we're making they're sending things like, you need to do a budget mod here, you're overspent here. They're asking questions on anything with overspending. We haven't had that in a really long time, and it's refreshing for me, and I'm sure some board members, I know Aaron is a big fan of the financial review, but Jess and Holly have been killing it the last few months with this new change with the financial reviews.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. I just do want to remind that we are open. Go ahead, Kim.
Is there a reason why we have 11 no responses from two different, have they ever contacted you in this process?
No.
Something.
Aaron?
So the financial reviews are pretty sophisticated. That's a good system, is the division heads receive a CC of the follow-up. So then that part's incumbent on the executive level to make sure that the people underneath them, not underneath them, but their direct reports are doing the follow-up. So that system works really well when all the wheels are moving, so.
Oh, they're putting deadlines, like I said, they're like, here's the deadline for the next thing, have it here, like, they've been very on top of that, which, I said, it's refreshing, like, because financial reviews, yes, they're informational and good, but they're only as good as much as we use them, and they've been very hands-on with those.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to share, I promise.
I would recommend to the new board members, if you really, really want to know the programs and services inside and out, financial reviews is the place to have it. There was a time when we, as the board, were not permitted to attend stuff like that. I opened it up. Board members attended for a while, and after a while, because they were familiar with them, and because I think they were confident in the process, they don't always attend those. But you get to understand the programs and services inside and out during financial reviews. They project, I don't think we've done that since the new board has come on, but the financial, we have done budgets where you can see what's projected, the percentage that's projected at that particular point.
Yep.
And so you can see fiscally where we're at any particular point. It's always about a
Yep.
6-week lag, but I would recommend that you go to those, because then you can see how everything comes together. So it's another meeting, but it's well worth your time.
I need all the help I can get, Aaron.
Yeah.
And I think that software also has a thing where there's a narrative that you can actually describe the budget, like the cost center itself, which I don't know if that's part of what we're doing. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of data entry to begin with, but there's things in there, staff don't, outside of the staff that do their budgets, most people don't know what those budgets do to some extent, so. Okay, we ready for budgets then?
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, first up, we have Broadband Reconnect 4. It's to establish a 2026 budget with USDA revenue of $1,074,612. No effect on tribal support. We received a grant award in September 2023, and it is, the whole budget is for other expenses, $1,074,612. I don't know, is Dan Doyle in the waiting room or in the room? No. I don't know if you have questions for him, and if so, I can have him reach out. I can actually text him
Does
too.
anybody have any questions for Dan Doyle?
This is, I think, the next phase.
Mike?
But yeah, you were just starting to say this. I was just gonna ask for like where are we at in the spending of this, and where, like just a overall update on the project itself, because this has been a big project. And
It has been a big project, and like the first thing I noticed is, again, because I know that board members had asked when, we get the grant. Well, we got it in September 23, so of course, the first thing I said, Dan, I have to put this in the backup. And I said, they're gonna ask why there's no thing, but they've had some changes to the grant, and then with Dan taking it over as well, so he said it's the next phase, and he plans on it going smoothly, but Bill can answer too.
I'm working with Dan on the project, the overall project, the broadband, the $28 million or whatever for those that might not be familiar with it. But I would suggest that we schedule a time for that as well, and I'll work with Dan. But I do the accounting for the big grant, and construction is underway. And so we were able to draw down the funds we needed as we submit requests to the USDA, and they also gave us a $1 million advance on any costs that we're incurring. So it's going well as far as I know. We have a consulting firm called Cherry Capital Connection that we deal with. We have meetings every Friday at 9 o'clock and give updates as to how things are going. And they have contracted on our behalf with an engineering firm called CCI. And they are doing the engineering, and as far as I know, things are rolling. Just for an overview, my understanding of the project will bring the internet broadband from St. Ignace all the way up to Sault Ste. Marie, right out to Shunk Road here. So it's a big project, but the benefit, they got a separate grant to pay the first year, $500,000 to pay the first year of tribal members accessing the broadband on a monthly basis. So they'll make, for the first number of people, for a spending of $500,000, they would get their internet paid for. So we're really excited about it, and it's a very worthwhile project. But I will get with Dan, and we will come forward with a formal presentation. That's a good idea, Mike. I like it.
Cole, then Mike.
Yeah, I can get with Dan on this question too, Bill. I just wonder if this is almost like a private job, like this fiber. Like, once this is installed, do we own the maintenance of it? Like, if it goes down, or how is that considered a utility at that point?
My understanding, Cole, is that we will contract with Cherry Capital Connection. They will run it, and we will receive a monthly payment from them, maybe, I don't know, $10, $15 per customer per month as part of but they will do all the repairs and the billings and all those types of things to the customers.
Okay.
Does that help, or?
I think it'd be probably just figured out in the costs that were being billed, they must allocate some of that towards maintenance or whatever.
Correct.
All right, thanks.
Mike?
I appreciate the update, Bill, and I guess when we're working on that presentation, if you could have him include how the rollout's gonna go. Like, how are members going to contact, who they're gonna contact to get on
Okay.
this
Good idea.
list
That's
and
another good
whatnot.
idea,
So
too.
That way we can present it to the membership as well. This is what the benefit is. This is how you go about signing up for.
And then maybe to further expand on that, Mike, we could put something in the paper.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, is that way
Yep.
we can present it out and all the memberships are aware of it and they know it's coming and this is how you get on.
Yeah, Larry Jocks is doing the member subscription part, the $500,000 I mentioned, so that was a grant that he applied for and received.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, next up, we have sanitation with Maria Mongi, and this is a real easy one. This is sanitation BE 26 and 93. It's to establish a 2027 budget with federal IHS revenue of $500,000. We received a total award for the $500,000. This is consulting, contracting, $488,000, other expenses of $12,000 for a total of $500,000. And Maria is here for additional questions.
Hi, this funding allows individual wells and septics to be placed at homeowners outside the reservation. Typically, that's outside the reservation. And we probably intend to do about 10 homes with this funding. It's a little bit more than we received last year. We only received about $300,000 last year, so.
Lana, then Kim?
Yep, I know that we always play catch-up when we get the money and then we have people on the waiting list, so the 10 that you're gonna do, this for the new board members, the 10 that you're gonna do this year, they have probably had those in from how many's on the waiting list left?
So I want to emphasize that this funding, the priority is new construction. So any homes that are being newly constructed are served first with wells and septic systems. After that, if there's funding remaining, it'll go to failing systems. There are not as many new constructions, so hopefully we will get some failing systems taken care of. But they also did an SDS, which is a deficiency list. And they added all the failing system applications, which are several. And they're hoping to be able to fund a large project for failing systems next year. We prioritize sewer as number 1, wells as number 2. We're contacted weekly about failing systems, especially septics. So that's why we prioritized it the way we did. So hopefully that'll come through. We just keep pushing projects through. IHS knows we spend our money. We always have. A lot of tribes, sometimes they don't spend their funding as quickly as we do. So we just keep pushing the applications up there to IHS.
That's good that they're gonna have that, because that's a little backwards, you know, that at failing systems versus new construction. If they can do new construction and afford that, they can afford, because there's no income guidelines on this one, right?
No income guidelines.
So, you know, the people that have failing systems simply cannot fix them because they can't afford it. So I'm glad to hear that there's gonna be that pot of money for those.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's good news. So, because a lot of people ask about that program. Thank you, Maria.
Typically, assist people with failing systems wasn't a problem in the past because we were awarded a lot more money than we have been in the last few years. So that's why they've went back to there, which is what the funding was always prioritized, new construction first. So they had to revert back to that. Our local office and then the regional said, no, we have to do the new construction first. So
Just one more question. Could you get us the total on what it would cost to get the total amount of failing systems funded that we have in the coffer right now?
yes.
That would be good. That would be good to know and a good goal for us that, you know, because we do have dollars put away on other things that, you know, I see in them in a budget mod and there's really no discussion about them. This would be worth a good discussion about, especially knowing how many we have failing systems and how much that amount would be.
So septic is going anywhere between $35,000 to $40,000 currently, and a well's going up to $32,000 to $35,000, depending on how deep they need to drill. And I think it's partly because it's IHS funding, and it's the tribe, and IHS requires a few more things of the contractors, and then we need to pay Bacon Davis prevailing wages, so that increases the costs of those systems.
Kim Gravel, then Cole.
You just answered the two questions I was going to ask, so good.
Cole.
Yeah, I had a question about those costs. I put a well and septic in, I think, 4 years ago. And the fact that I got charged, I think, $20,000 for a well was outrageous. They went 62 feet deep. And I think we need to challenge some of these contractors. Like you said, I think they know what's coming from the tribe. And I think they know what we're willing to pay. And I think $50,000 for, you know, you said it's $500,000 for 10 homes. I think for right now, for a standard septic, it's $11,000. For a raised, I think it's around $20,000. So I think we need to challenge some of these contractors and see if there's, and it's tough because they're limited, right? There's not many well drilling companies left in the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
It's tough to find them. But yeah, when we got the bill, it was crazy how much they were charging the tribe, at
Yeah.
that time. So whatever we can do to try to, like I said, just challenge those contractors. They give us an honest price, it's tough.
So we have, and they typically won't come down, but then we'll reach out to the homeowner because there is a maximum funding. I believe it's like $66,200 per site, and that's for both septic and well. And if it exceeds that, we have reached out to the homeowner and said, I don't know, the contractor's not coming down, and you have to come up with this money. And sometimes we get a little pushback on that, and I'm like, you just received $66,000 in funding. So anyways, they typically will get a hold of the contractor and work something out with them. And sometimes it is the contractor taking a look at it and reducing something, but, yeah, we've tried.
Aaron.
Just as a funny aside, Maria remembers this, but the question that Lana asked, we did that one time, and the chair was out of town. I was chairing the meeting, and we voted to fund the backlog, and it was like a 2-year backlog. But the one thing that you're not going to get, though, with that information is you're not going to get need-based information, because the people that apply for it don't have to be income eligible. So if you really wanted to know, Larry could probably run some data. I don't know when the last time we did a census, but we collect all that information in our census, so you could get an estimate of people who are economically needy that would need it. Because this program is provided to us by the IHS, and they don't provide an income eligibility. And in some cases, this is a kind of a, rub some people the wrong way, but one time we had a wealthy person on Sugar Island who had a mansion that got a sanitation because she qualified. She needed it, and she probably didn't need the money. I mean, she probably didn't need that part, but she got it over people who are low income. But we don't have any control over that unless we request our own numbers and do our own program, which we could do.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Maria.
Okay, thank you.
Good job, Maria. Hey, Danny. It'll never get old.
I saw them sat next to each other too, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I don't know if I blacked out that day. I don't know what's happening. Next up, we have Katie here from Natural Resources for EPA Indoor Air Quality. It's to establish a 2027 budget with federal EPA revenue of $3,000, no effect on tribal support. Received a grant award for $3,000, and it goes from 10/1/24 to 9/30/27, and it's for supplies of $3,000. And Katie is here for additional questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Katie? No, pretty smooth. Thank you, Katie. Oh, hold on, Kim Gravel.
Are these just for tribal buildings?
Yeah, so Robin provided a little bit of a blurb here for you all. They are to construct and deploy low-cost, do-it-yourself Corsi Cube air filtration systems. So these were recently shared on our social media too, I believe. But they're designed to reduce indoor exposure to pollutants, and they anticipate doing a workshop in the East End and one in the West End for tribal members to be able to construct them to use them in their own homes. And they are going to give preference to homes that have children, elders, and respiratory health issues among tribal members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Next up, we have another one from Natural Resources. It's Wildlife Management Institute White Nose Syndrome, establishing a 2027 budget with federal U.S. Fish and Wildlife revenue of $14,997.92. No effect on travel support. We received a grant award for that, a total amount, and it goes from 4/1/26 to 2/28/27. This has travel, training, $9,202. Other expenses, $4,189, indirect, $1,607, and Katie is here for additional questions.
Does anybody have any questions on this? No? Thank you, Katie.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay, next up, we have the Elder Division, another Katie. It's Elder Services Meal Additions. I just completely lost train of thought here. This is a request to establish a 2027 budget with third-party revenue of $234,624 and tribal support of $3,500. This is direct services, $203,180, space cost $3,120, indirect $3,744. And I also wanted to note that the change was made to the third-party revenue budget for 2027 as well. And Katie is here for additional questions.
Does any, Bridget?
Have we, I don't believe that we voted to change the age for elders, but I noticed some elder groups are now telling people to come at 55 when I believe ours is 60, so don't know if that's impacting the budget. Or who is allowed to make those decisions, I guess.
I know they've been wanting to invite younger people. The meetings are open per their guidelines or per their bylaws. So I know that they've been wanting to get younger people in so that when they turn 60, they can be on the subcommittee and be active and involved in their area.
Aaron?
I don't think that the age to attend Title VI meals is 60. I don't think that's a requirement, but, and we have a donation box out that people should, if they're not an elder, they should make a contribution if they're gonna have lunch with us. But maybe double check the Title VI, because I don't think it requires you to be 60. I think it allows each tribe to set the elder age limit. And I think ours is 55, except for elder tickets and elder dividend. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I will check.
Cole?
So I see here that the elders need to, is it pay for the community centers for their lunches and for Marquette and Escanaba?
So there's storage space and office space in the Escanaba and Marquette community centers that the elder groups in that area utilize. And so that comes out of the elder services budget.
Okay. I got you. Just figuring out how this works.
Any other questions for Katie? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, is Andrew Lane online or in the room? No. I'll present, and if there's questions, we can get with Andrew. This is for buildings. It's for the I spelled center wrong. Center. Jeez. Marquette Community Center, it's for 2026 and 2027 budget modifications. And on the resolution, I do have on there that these are funded from the Elder Division, Education, and Tribal Ops. So I wanted to note that. For 2026, it is a request to increase other revenue, $67,479.88. It'll increase utilities, $9,189, and other expenses, $58,298. For the next one, it's the 2027 budget modification to increase other revenue, $32,520. It'll increase utilities, $1,200, and other expenses, $31,320. And if you have additional questions, Holly can try to answer, and if not, we can get with Andrew as well.
Does anyone have any questions on this? Mike?
Just when we talk to him, then we have the budget is funded by fund balance and other revenue from Elder Division, Education, and Tribal Ops. Are we gonna do breakdowns on that? Like, because when we do this, hey, is it all coming, like 90% of it coming from one thing and then little bits here and there, or? I'm a fan of putting the stuff on the reso and of having the actual breakdown. So when we just refer to fund balance, like other funds, but we don't actually specify what the amounts are.
Yeah, so this one is essentially to bring the budget more in alignment with actual costs. He had done a proposed budget and then needed to make some adjustments just to get it more in line with actual. The amounts that would be charged would be on the space that they occupy, and then tribal ops would cover the common spaces or unoccupied areas within that. And I know that we've had some discussion about allocating out community center spaces, and that's probably another discussion that we need to have, but that would be probably in a closed and maybe for a longer period of time.
Okay,
So,
I'm good with that.
does anybody else have any other questions? Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. The next one is a closed one.